Welcome to Cat the Minion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is a hit the deck review, and as you can see here, I've got the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. So this deck is a little bit unusual from the standard 78 card deck. The Major Arcana has some of the same themes. It has most of the same themes, but it's like expanded and things have been moved around a little bit. So the Major Arcana in this deck has 25 cards instead of 22. So the whole deck is 81 cards. And then the Minor Arcana are set up mostly like you would expect to. They have the same 56 cards, more or less. The pages and knights are a little different. They have specific titles, and page, knight, king, and queen are specifically numbered 11 through 14, which is how I usually see them, even though they could be normally interpreted as a 1. In this deck, they're very specific. So I apologize if my voice sounds raspy. I'm kind of sick right now. I'm gonna get a sip of water and an emergency tissue in case I get too snuffly, and a little bit of Carmix so my lip doesn't split. And then I'm gonna open this up. Alright. So, this is the box. It's a lid and bottom of box set up, a little notch for your finger. We have the back of the box, the description of what's going on in there. It's pretty heavy. The bottom and the top just say that it's got the 81 cards and the 308-page book. It's published by Blue Angel Publishing. I feel like, yeah, they are in Australia. They did the, Blue Angel also published the Lucy Cavendish Blessings deck, and I happened to get these two decks at the same time. I was like, oh my god, it's the same publisher. So the cardstock is kind of similar. It's like glossy and fairly thin, and they flip and shuffle quite easily, but they do tend to bend, which is fine. I just have to bend it back the other way. It's a pretty sturdy box too, and I like that sort of teal tinted navy blue that's in there. So this is the artwork and the concept design, creation, and author is the same person. It's Ravynne Phelan. Phelan means wolf, and I know that because I used to study names for a hot minute there. So here's the book. It's the same image as the thing. It has really long descriptions of each card. There's a bunch of different stuff going on. The Minor Arcana, there's key phrases, keywords, and then a meaning, what it means if you're looking at the past, the present, or the future, and then potential blockages. So there's a lot of information, and for me, when I get decks, I like to read the book first, and flip through each card and look at it while I'm reading it before I start using it. So I have this issue. I used to read tons of books all the time, whether it was, nonfiction, fiction, 300 pages, 1,000 pages, boring, not boring, and I used to get through everything but like 2 books ever in my entire life, and I'm at a place where I have like too much anxiety, or I'm like too busy or something, so I can tear through a novel in a couple of days, but anything that's nonfiction, I tend to start passing out. I think I'm just overworking myself, and then my brain just decides to shut off. So it took me a while to get through this book, but it was worth it. And I don't usually refer back to it when I'm reading these cards. I probably did a little bit when I was first using it, but it wasn't my first tarot deck, so I kind of had a basis already. So it might not, if you haven't done tarot before, you might not want to get it as your first learning deck. I mean, you can get it because it's awesome, but you might want to like wait a few months until you get the feel of it to start using this deck, because otherwise you might end up having to read through like giant chunks of text every time you pick a card, and it might not be that easy. That being said, though, it's a very powerful deck. It's very useful. The artwork is really cool. It helps pull like different variations on the themes, because the imagery isn't the same as you would get if you got like 4 different Rider-Waite's, and they'd almost be identical. So this is helpful in that way, and the fact that it has a slightly different Major Arcana. So if you're feeling pulled to this deck and you're getting messages that are different than normal, then that's the reason. And I like to think of this because of that, because it's different. For me, it's like a combination of an oracle deck and a tarot deck. And you know, some spreads, if I feel like it, I'll switch out tarot for where I normally have an oracle. But for this deck, I'm more inclined to use it in place of oracles than other tarot decks, if that makes sense. So that's that. And then again, it's just a lot of information, just different ideas on the themes. Things, and it's just the sort of the perspective of motorcycle going by. I like to, I'm stuck to my hand. I like to understand the perspective of the creator, like what they were thinking about when they made it. And again, this person's thoughts might be different about this or tarot in general than when they made it, but it's sort of like a timestamp of certain thoughts. Like, I might not agree with stuff that I wrote down about what I was thinking 15 years ago, but I can be like, okay, I can see where that was a stepping point from where I'm at. So that's what's going on there. And then the deck, the back of the deck. And I will, after I go through these, I'll, like, shuffle example. But you can see they've gotten a little bit, well, maybe not, but you can see it there. They're a little bit bent from shuffling, and they keep trying to bend them back the other way. It's a fairly thin cardstock. I feel it does have like a paper inside, but the finish is kind of plastic, which is fine. If you spill something on it, it's not going to shrivel up and die immediately. And they're pretty crispy. Not insanely crispy, but pretty good. It's a nice cardstock, and they're very smooth. So this pretty design here, the border. There's a border on the other side too, so if you, for some reason you wanted to, you could trim this deck and not lose any important information on the outside there. So I'm going to start flipping these over. I'm going to move the camera a little bit. All right, hopefully that wasn't too loud and gross in the volume thing there. The sound, the microphone, there we go. This is getting like a little bit of a Star Wars credits perspective here. So in place of where the Fool would be in the 0 position, just to show the inside of the box too. In the Fool position is the card Choice. So choice is usually, in the regular tarot, is usually assigned to the Lover's card, but here it's coming in the Fool. So it's not necessarily leaping off a cliff in this deck, it's which path are you going to take? And you can see that the Fool does have to choose where they're going. I almost said he, but I want it to be more PC. So the Fool decides where they're going, and where they go is usually off the cliff. There's kind of a cliff here, and there's sort of empty space-ish behind these. This actually reminds me of a triptych door. And then we have these faces here. I think there's actually, yeah, there's a third one over here. These faces remind me of the Mask card in Lenormand. But the triptych door, usually there's like 2 doors on the side that are smaller. Here they're kind of the same size. There's 2 doors on the side that are smaller that are like fake doors where it's just sort of like bas-relief cut. And then the third door would be the real door. In like temples that people actually go in, it's open, but in like a rock portal, it's also bas-relief, but it's bigger. So this is, and it does kind of go back to that that Lovers thing where there's the dark and the light, the masculine and the feminine, and then the union where the angel is. There's a lot of different symbols here that you can look at. There's some Celtic knots, there's a snake, there's light, there's some kind of knife angel over here. There's an apple, some water. So there's a lot of different ways that this could be interpreted. And the snake I was going to say the snake, but this is kind of like the Milky Way back here too. So those can be used to interpret the meaning of the card as well. But the triptych door can often be the union of opposites. But it's also like you choose one direction, you choose the other direction, or you choose the center, right? It's sort of like you might be able to figure out where you're going better if you walk in the middle of the road than if you walk in the rut on either side, but you also might be more likely to be attacked because you're more visible. There's that aspect as well. So just a lot of options to choose from here. Okay. So here, number 1 is the Child. And in some respects, this Major Arcana is a lot more like, it operates a lot more like archetypes. I mean, I know they're all archetypes, but I'm thinking specifically of the Wild Unknown archetypes, because I'm seeing that some of these cards now are very similar. So instead of where the Magician would be, we have the Child. And this one actually does remind me of the Syrian Starseed deck, because in that deck, the Magician is called Indigo. And we see the same kind of coloration here. And in that deck, it's also a child. Here, it's more of a toddler than an older child, though. Right, the inner child, the innocence of the child, the sort of exuberance and like ability to absorb information, those kind of themes. And we do see this third eye and crown type coloration here. So we have the Maiden. This would be like the teen and tween energy for a feminine, right? The Maiden is part of the trifecta of the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone. In the regular tarot, Virgo energy only really shows up as the Hermit, which is usually an old man. For some reason, the Maiden energy was... And I guess you could say she appears in the Strength card and possibly also the Star card, but she's not really named and she doesn't have her own place. So here we have the sort of stem entity of the generic child that splits apart like that triptych door is split into thirds. The center would be the child, and then we have the maiden, and then the youth would be the masculine, which would be more mercurial energy. So here we have the maiden, and she's looking very green, possibly because of that Virgo energy. A lot of the time the Empress has a rabbit too, but she's like the the Empress in training. She's like the inner child of the Empress. Right? It's it's sort of like puberty going into feminine energy. It's like, what are these energies do? Like learning how to be in feminine energy. What is the expression? What is the creativity? What does it mean to push into that physical form and mindset and behavior and hormones of what feminine energy manifests in a body. So that's what that card is about. So, and then 3 is the youth, which is where... Oh, and she's actually where the High Priestess would normally be in the deck. So, where the Empress would normally be, we have the youth. So this is the masculine young person learning about... Like, he's going out on an adventure. He's got his dog here, his loyal companion. In this case, this youth is kind of like the fool. But he's on the journey, he's learning how to navigate his life and all that kind of stuff. Right? He's also like going through puberty and learning what it means to exist in a more polarized masculine energy. Also some symbolism going on here with the staff as well. All right. So 4, where the Emperor would be, is where this mother is. Normally the Empress would be a number 3. All right. So this is the middle part, the adult female who's in the phase where she can generate, right? She can give birth to ideas and copies of herself and all kinds of other things. So that's what's going on here. A lot of different things going on that can be used to pick up synchronicities and symbols. It does look like she's pregnant here. It's not like egregious. So the 5 in this deck is what would be the Emperor, number 4 in regular tarot. We have the Father, and there's a little bit of Leo energy here because he's got this mountain lion. And you see that there's crown activation. The Father is the Emperor. It's the adult male, the like the mover and shaker, the protector, the one who's expanding. So that's what that is. I'm thinking of sperm, and I'm thinking like recombinant, like solving problems, that kind of thing. Okay. So here, number 6, they actually have a separate crone card, and this is what the High Priestess would be for me. There's some moon energy here. You can see she's older, she's experienced, she's sort of going on her own quest because she's done sort of building things, and now she can kind of explore other realms to some extent. She's got a familiar. But I mean, you think of the crone, people think of it as like, oh, it's some old lady all washed up, or like a witch or something like that. It's like, it's sort of like finally being confident and in control of your creative forces. And it's like it's like a discernment and an understanding, this sort of like encyclopedic knowledge at this point. Or it's like manager versus creator or something like that. So on the masculine side, we have the Sage, which is where the Magician would be. This is number 7 here. right? The sage is the older version of the masculine, because you have the youth, the father, and then the wizard, right? The wise man. And here it's called sage. Also makes me think of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's song, The Sage. So he's just, you know, an older man. It's the masculine version of this. And he's still got his dog with him. It's like a wolf. And he has the owl as well, because he's wise. So these are the same energies, just in those different polarities of masculine and feminine. Right? He's got the encyclopedic knowledge. He's sort of done protecting and managing and expanding, and now he's sort of gaining more control over the, I want to say, metaphysical world. Okay, so in this deck we have 8, death and rebirth. Normally death is a 13, and here it's coming in place of where strength normally is, or in some decks, justice. We have this cosmic egg here with a snake wrapped around it, which I've seen in other places. And in this case, there's a fetus in here, sort of potential for growth, the rebirth that's about to happen. And the snake is like shedding your skin and growing, and then we have death with these skulls here. Not sure what this frog is. I guess because it's amphibious, it can be in 2 worlds, so there's that aspect as well. So 9 is knowledge. This is where the hermit would normally be. And this does give me a little bit of a hermit energy. Also makes me think of the 8 of Pentacles, especially in the Radley Valentine Angel deck. This is, it's sort of a generic youth or maiden. It's sort of non-binary pubescent child here. I kind of always feel like this is Hermione Granger, though, when I look at it. It also is giving off a little bit of Fool energy. There's that same apple from the Choice card and some other stuff going on here, but basically this is sort of alchemical knowledge. So it may not necessarily be going within. It also reminds me of the Book card in the Lenormand. But this is learning, studying, acquiring knowledge, taking a minute to, you know, read between the lines and that kind of thing. So, and then we have 10, which is wisdom, and this is most definitely the hermit. Right? I've been studying and now I'm wise. It's like an abstract form of a youth and then going straight to the wizard or the high priestess. It's like those are the aspects of human polarity, and then we have this this more universal theme of learning and then having wisdom. Okay. So essentially this 10, where the wheel would normally be, is the hermit energy. And then we have 11, which is healing, which is where justice or strength would normally be, and it's coming in with kind of another aspect of the Lover's card, which is the healing. Raphael energy. There's this, that looks like the same frog that was in the other card. Like copied and pasted. Oh, it's not quite copied and pasted, it's just similar. So this is like a magician also. A little bit of temperance energy in there as well. But there's this, it's like learning wisdom. It's like, and I got my PhD, MD now. It's like healing is like, this kind of gives me like a self-healing through learning kind of energy, especially based on the 2 previous cards. But it doesn't have to be that way. But we see the staff with a snake around it. That's sort of Kundalini symbolism. So any way you want to take it, healing, kind of another form of the magician. And then we have love. So this is another card that seems to be pulled from the Lover's card. It also does look a little bit like the Temperance Angel. So you can take that as you want. There's some moon and butterfly and flowers and a glowing heart there. So Celtic knot. So that's however you want to take that card. 12 is normally where the Hanged Man is. I kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, this card of knowledge, of like studying or trying to get some insight, is a lot like the Hanged Man. Okay, so 13, where death would normally be, we have union, and this is also kind of like the Lovers or like the Chariot. There's a lot going on in this card. We got an eagle, we got a wolf, we got 2 fish, a butterfly, chakras are lit up, we got dragon wings, we've got two heads on snake bodies, so this is kind of like the Kundalini, like the dark and the light, the masculine and the feminine, the Michael and Mary lines meeting up in the crown area there. So that's there. It's yeah, so union. And then we have the self. (14). This is where temperance would normally be. So there's a bunch of different symbols going on in here. There's a portal with Celtic braid around it. Celtic knot braid. We have flowers, we got a butterfly, we've got these dragons, some birds. This is kind of like this. Okay, this is giving me like a strength vibe right now. I'm looking at him, looks like the solar chakra, even though it's glowing kind of where the throat would be. It's all this golden yellowy energy. Or if you think of the self, you think of self-confidence, the solar chakra. I think that's what this card is trying to do. Without reading in the book again, I don't get this. I don't think I've gotten this card very often when I'm reading with this deck. That happens. I can use, I use these decks over and over again, and I might get the same card or the same number card in some decks, and it won't come out in the other ones. It's just kind of unusual. So we're at 15, where the death card would normally be, and this is abundance here. Sort of one of the aspects of the Empress. It might also be indicating the star energy as well. So we have a dragon here, we have a cornucopia, we got a bunny rabbit, and this feminine energy here. This is giving me a lot of Empress vibes, which is interesting because there was already the Mother card. And 15. And then we have 16 here, which is where the Tower would normally be, and we have Destiny, which is the image that's on the front of the deck, with the box and everything. So you have Destiny. So here's that cosmic egg right there that fetus was in the other one. We have this like crown and third eye expansion here. This sort of mystical person. Looking kind of like the crone. And a portal here as well. I'm trying to think. I mean, this is a little bit like the star card as well. So we have Journey. This is also a little bit like the Fool. It's also a little bit like the Chariot because there's a dark side and a light side. I don't know why I'm feeling like it's trying to be the Moon card. But anyway, this is normally where the 17 is where the star would normally be. We have a Journey. And then we have Thought. So Thought is kind of an air elemental. This might be kind of hearkening back to Justice energy, although this is number 18 where the moon would normally be. There's a pentacle here. There's a dark and a light. There's a cauldron. It looks like the maiden And then we have these different geometries here. We have the triangle, the square, and the circle. And then the pentagram down here. So it's giving a little bit like Metatron's cube, contemplating the meaning of the universe. So there might be some moon-like aspects to this as well. This also could be a little bit of like judgment energy, like a review. So we have 19 here, emotions, in the place where the sun would normally be. Now, you think of emotions, you think of water, but this looks like fire here. If you think of water and fire together on a card, that also makes me think of judgment, because there's, although here it looks kind of like justice, because there's a sword and then there's somebody covering their eyes. But judgment, if I can do this right, judgment is fire energy, but it's ruled by Pluto, which is scorpionic, which is water, which is why I was trying to say that this is like judgment. At least how I'm seeing it right this second. So then we have desire. And this, I mean, even these symbols kind of make me think of the 4 elements. Air, earth, fire, and then this lotus here, like water, and then the person kind of embodying a spirit element. But it also looks like this person is contemplating their solar energy, because they're holding that glowing dragon in front of them. So this is number 20 here. It's sort of like aspects of different major arcana kind of separated out and given their own card. And we have perception, 21 here. For me, this dark sword angel person thing is like a higher level of the high priestess, right? Because usually I think of like 2 of swords, queen of swords, justice, and then the high priestess as kind of a leveling up. And this would be like the next level after that, like the higher vibration, the next dimension up version of that, right? Like supersize it. So we have perception, number 21, which is where the world would normally be. This is coming in like judgment as well. If you think of, right, if you think of justice as being a lower vibration in some ways, then judgment would be the next one. So this is also kind of an aspect of judgment coming in, perhaps. And we have 22, intuition. A little bit like the high priestess, again. In fact, this looks exactly like the high priestess. Even though the crone aspect was already addressed. Intuition. Third eye energy. And then 23, integrity. Looking much like the Empress here. But there's like a vulnerability here as well. But if you think of integrity, you can also think of integration. This looks like possibly a Garden of Eden type scene. It's like, ooh, the original sin, but it's like, you gotta have integrity, god damn it. But here it's like, the integrity here makes me think of integration, right? The dark side and the light side. It's like, is she mischievous or is she good? Maybe she's both. That might not be what the author intended, but that's what I'm seeing right now. And again, there's a lot of different little symbols and tidbits in there that you can use to interpret meanings as they arise. So we have faith. So this is kind of like how the Hierophant would be. Although instead of being number 5, here it's number 24. And it might not necessarily be believing in a religion, but it could be like faith in yourself, or trusting the universe to co-create with you. You see different animals and stuff here. All right, so basically the Hierophant, but we have different imagery here. All right, so then we have the Minor Arcana. We have fire. One thing that I really like about this deck is that all of the aces are dragons. And you'll see that in a minute. I'm not going to spread them out because I don't know where they break in here. There's another one. So all of the aces are dragons. And here we have the fire dragon. We've got an egg with a spider on it with an infinity symbol. So take that as you will, but basically the ace of fire, ace of wands, rods, and so on. So the two here, we have a duality. I love this artwork, it's so cool. So there's a dark and a light side, but they're made out of fire, so we have yellow and orange, basically. All right, choose your fighter, choose your path. We have the Three of Wands. This guy's looking a little bit like the Fool. He's set out on his journey. He's got the 3 pyramids here that he's going to go investigate, right? He's excited about where he's going. We have 4 of Wands here. We've got an archer instead of the foundational imagery that we normally see. This is giving me Sagittarius energy, or actually it looks more like Martian energy. I don't know why I said Sagittarius. Yeah, Martian energy, Venus. This looks possibly a feminine in Mars. So if I'm looking at Mars, I have a disc and then I have an arrow, but the arrow is pointing this way, right? It's expansion. Like I've anchored and now I'm expanding. 5 of Wands, conflict. It's very homoerotic fight scene here. It's actually kind of fairly standard, but it just looks really cool. So we have 6 of Wands, usually the victory card. And again, we have this duality of dark and light sides, and it seems like this Fire King here is about to award a trophy here, so possibly. It kind of looks like you are looking into this, and these are the, the color guards or whatever, and then after they do whatever they're doing down here, you cross through and the king gives you the trophy. Possibly. I haven't noticed it that way before. Otherwise, it's sort of like these guys are at a draw. But usually 6 of Wands is the victory card. My thumb hurts. 7 of Wands. This is usually the standing your ground or not letting people in kind of energy. Here it's looking very much like some kind of sacral chakra healing going on. And that might be directly related to that normal meaning of the tarot. But very much here sacral chakra, and we still have this duality of dark and light fire. But perhaps the shadow and the integration needs to be happening in the sacral chakra, which is this bowl. And then the snake here for whatever your snake needs are. 8 of fire. This is usually those, all those sticks flying through the air. So this being is very rapid. They've got flight, they're in motion, they're ready to go. They're hot to trot. Gotta get a message to you. An angel. Alright, so 9 of Wands, usually some dude standing on guard. Here, this guy looks like he's protecting something else. A little bit like Beauty and the Beast kind of energy, but non-standard imagery for the Nine of Wands. So you can interpret this, what he's doing here, however you need to in the reading. Looks like it might be solar energy here, but it looks like it's a little bit lower. It's either solar or sacral coming in. So 10 of Wands, usually like it's too hard, like it's a burden energy. Here, this 10 of Fire is all of the chakras lighting up. And we've got these two rods being held here, which is actually goes back to Egyptian stuff. It's like a resonance. Although perhaps he's meant to be chiseling this totem panel here. So 10 of Fire here, a little bit different. All right. So in this deck, the Page of Fire is called instead masculine and feminine. So we have this duality coming together. Could also go directly to the concept of twin flame, but you don't have to. This is like an integration or a balance. And the Knight here is called the Hero. Right, we think of the hero's journey. Heracles and like Superman and other kinds of heroes. Frodo Baggins, whoever. I can't think of a girl hero right now. But there's some. So we have the hero. The sort of savior idea, I guess Alice in Wonderland could be considered a hero. Right, somebody that's gone through a struggle and overcome it, or done some service to humanity and come out like wiser and stronger and higher vibration, that kind of stuff. So the hero. Notice these energies are coming out of fire. Right? It's like a core identity and what drive your spirituality. But the Queen of Fire, still the Queen of Fire. Little fire kitty cat. 13, and then the King of Fire. So she is a kitty cat and he has a lion. And do you think that the Queen of Wands usually has some kind of cat on her card anyway, and the King of Fire is just coming in and saying like solar energy. So 13 and 14. All right. So we have the water dragon here. Kick-ass water dragon with a big heart in the middle there. These are so cool. I love them. Alright. So, Two of Cups. See some fishies here, and possibly merman and mermaid. And very much looking like you would expect a lover's card to, but here it's just a lower vibration. Two of Cups. Sexy times. Three of Cups. We're not really partying, but we've got three fish here, indicating that. It looks like she might be dressed for a party, so she's on her way, apparently. Three of Cups. And the Four of Cups here is usually like an apathy card. This one's a little different. I think there should be four fish there. There's two here and one there. I don't see a fourth one. That's weird. So this merman here, he's like a prince or whatever. He's looking in the mirror, and it's his face is scarred, and he's got a wonky eyeball. And it's kind of like looking in the mirror and understanding that any like mistakes or scars or like impairments, the shadow elements that you might have don't make you unworthy. Like you're not a piece of crap, you don't suck, and looking in the mirror and being like, you know what? This is part of who I am. That's what this card is doing, instead of the usual, ew, I don't like it. Right here it's sort of like, ew, I don't like me. And then it's like, no, I think I'm finding something in there that's like, I'm still worthy. So we have five of cups. I'm only seeing 4 fish there. That's weird. So 5 of cups, traditionally sad face kind of card. We have this mermaid who looks like she's deeply mourning. She's very morose. 6. The 6 of cups. This is usually the like looking back on the childhood kind of fond memories things. And we do see this mermaid here. She's sort of reaching out. Whether she's reaching out to the future or to you or to the past is up to interpretation. But she's sort of grasping something. So we have 7 of cups here. So 7 of cups is usually like all those options or distractions. And this imagery seems a little bit different. It looks like she's sort of free falling or trying to float with the jet stream. So you can interpret that how you may, or you can read in the book and see what the author intended. So we have 8, the 8 of cups here. The 8 of cups is normally letting go of that which doesn't serve you anymore. This guy is I think he's supposed to look friendly because he's smiling, but he always looks kind of evil to me. He's got his chakras lit up too. We've got these dolphins. I don't get this card in this deck very often, but again, this is one where the meaning seems to be a little different than standard. There's some kind of, it looks like there's some kind of challenge to be faced. Like a discernment that has to happen. Alright, so we have the 9 of cups here. This looks like pheromone to me. And she's sort of looking for the light. 9 of cups is usually kind of a rosy-cheeked, inebriated guy, super excited about all his cups. So here we have this mermaid here looking towards the light. There's sort of like, it looks like there's an emotional confidence happening. We have 10 of cups, which I don't see very often in this deck. And it looks like this mermaid here is gaining mastery over the water. Right, there's like I understand how to do emotions now, and it's working out for me. So there's this moon energy here. The 10 of cups. Ow, my elbow. Okay, so in this deck, the page is emotions/intellect. So again, we have this duality, polarities, and this is where it's beginning to be understood, right? It's like, ooh, I'm getting a hang of this, and here it's like I'm starting to upgrade. I'm learning more about it. Like I'm in training to be the king or the queen or the knight, right? I'm 11. I'm balancing, right? I'm not overthinking my emotions. I'm not letting my emotions dictate like how I behave and communicate. So then the next level up here, the 12, where the knight would be, we have the counselor. right? So the counselor, if you're going to therapy, you have somebody who helps you discuss emotions. This is sort of like, I'm no longer just learning about it or how to practice what I'm doing. I'm going into theory of emotions. What is behavior? What is the motive? What is the, like, what are the psychologies behind it? And then we have these whales here indicating deeper insight, emotional intelligence. All right. Sort of understanding. And then we have the Queen of Water 13 and the King of Water 14. More or less the same as a king and queen would be. She's got a crab on here, and he's got a heart with Celtic knots, and a starfish, and some seahorses, and she's got some turtles. So we have the air dragon, this beautiful, sparkly crystal dragon. I'm not sure what that symbol's supposed to mean, though. Some kind of angelic script or rune or something. Air dragon. Ace of air. Ace of swords. Okay. Two of swords is usually a young feminine, right? A maiden of sorts, sitting by the sea practicing with two swords. This, and I usually say it's a low vibration of the Queen of Swords, of Justice, and of the High Priestess, and we have this balance here, right? A low vibration of Justice. And here, it's not just balancing one idea or the other, or learning to see from other perspectives. It's this, like, I'm weighing the dark side and the light side. This deck seems very attuned to people dealing with polarities at every step of the way, right? Because we live in a dualistic world, and the Dreams of Gaia Tarot seems very aware of that, attuned, very keen to it. It's also pretty like goth too. Looks cool. So 3 of Swords. Here we have, instead of the pain card, we have a learning. We're stopping in at the library. So here's where more thinking comes in, and it's actually sort of based on this. It's like trying to figure it out. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, Eureka, I'm starting to get it. Let me learn more about this other viewpoint. That might not be like the long and short of it, but it's the emotional pain card. The 3 swords stuck in the heart. So it's interesting to see a different interpretation here. So we have the 4 of Swords. This is usually the knight sleeping on the coffin, and I really like this because it looks like a robot. Like robot dreams. Like, do robots dream of electric sheep? I don't know. This is kick-ass, and I like this card. It's like interdimensional. Looking very science-y. I dig it. So interpret it traditionally or for whatever you're seeing in the card here. Or you can read it in the book. I like it. I like it a lot. 5 of Swords. This is usually like the last man on a battlefield or mind games. Here it does give me more mind games. It's like putting on a mask, and it's like can't even see your own reality, right? It's like you are who people tell you to be. So that's something to think about. Deception. This looks like, I think it looks like Anna Paquin. But we see another bifurcated card here with this black and white, dark and light, yin-yang kind of energy. Six of Swords is usually the like sailing away from the BS card. When it's inverted, it usually tells me we need to go deeper. There's a separation here, right? Separating the dark and the light. But what's being created in the space between them is this rainbow. This sort of like without the duality, you'll never have the prism that creates all this, the spectrum of that the chakras exist in. So perhaps there's a deeper meaning to the whole thing. All right, so take that as you will. Seven of Swords. That's usually the like sneaky ninja thief kind of card. The moon in Aquarius. Here it's like, it looks like a teacher of the dark arts about to tell you a secret. Perhaps that's the best way I could interpret this right now. There's a bunch of different aspects to here. You can read in the book, you can use it traditionally, or you can just look at what's going on in the card. Again, it's slightly different than standard. Eight of Swords. That's usually I want to break free. Now, there isn't a lot of bifurcation in terms of coloration here. Bifurcation, coloration, tarnation, damnation. But we have one sword up, one sword down, and this one is bleeding because it's stabbing him in the hand. And he's chained up a little bit, but he's got the keys. Like, dude, you got the keys. You don't have to be here and, like, get yourself stabbed in the hand every time. Like, if you know what's happening, you can get out of it. Right, he looks like he got stunned by a gorgon there. Like, frozen. So there is that. So Nine of Swords, that's usually the nightmares and anxiety. Some of the times it's like bound wrists, but here the sword itself looks like it's tying the wrists together. And it does look like there's a dream state going on. I'm not quite sure how to interpret this imagery on this card, but it does look non-standard. It looks more like evaluating what's going on in the subconscious than it is worrying about what the surface anxiety. Apparently for some people it's cervix anxiety, but surface anxiety. Ten of Swords. This is the, like, overkill, stabbed in the back kind of energy. Now, what's interesting is that this angel has their back to us. All right, the back is exposed. But here we don't see any swords in there. But there's this, like, rush of color. There's a completion, right? Oh, I see what's happening. These are the pearly gates. Somebody's been stabbed to death and now they've got their wings. That's an interesting way to render that concept of overkill. Dead. So the place where the page would be in this deck, we have body and mind. Right? You can't, like, it's like if you want something to manifest, you can't just think about it. And this is where that duality comes into play, right? Because if you're in, like, a higher dimension, you think something, it'll just happen. And when you're in the meat space, those things are separate. So we have the interface of the body and the mind, and then 12, where the knight would be, we have the scribe, right? So things are being recorded. I'm thinking about it, I'm writing about it, I'm communicating about it. It makes me think of a Michael Jackson lyric, and I think it's from History. Or wait, is it? It might be from Invincible. Something about, like, read about it, write about it, or something like that from one of those like anti-tabloid songs. Like read about it, write about it, that kind of thing. But here it's sort of like if you're going into a night energy, you want to be it's like if it was inverted, it would be like sensationalized garbage, and then it would be like truth and understanding. So we have the Queen of Air and the King of Air. So we have owls and eagles here. Wisdom and observation. What's going on in her eyes? Oh, it's some kind of glyph. King and Queen of Air. Fairly standard understandings, possibly, but you could also look at the images and see how that works. Alright, so I'm going to change the battery because it's about to die and start another segment before I do the pentacles, the earth. So we have the earth dragon here looking pretty kick-ass, growing and protecting a little seed there in its claws. So I'm going to change that battery and come right back. I was going to say, okay, here's this earth dragon, and then I had earth angel in my head. Like, earth angel, will you be me? And I'm like, okay, thanks for that stroll through the 50s there. My voice is getting pretty ragged. I should get a sip of water, because I'm going to annoy myself if I don't. Okay. So we have the Ace. So the Two of Earth here is looking a lot like the Maiden. She's got these cosmic eggs that she's juggling. And a lot of the time we see like a youth by the sea juggling a couple of pentacles that are looped in it like a rope. So she's also juggling. There's some like a choice involved here. You know, which egg has the little fetus in it? Choose your fighter kind of thing. So we have the Three of Pentacles here. Instead of working on a cathedral, we have this kid putting his blood, sweat, and tears into growing a new oak tree, apparently. He's got a squirrel buddy here who's making sure the acorns are good. There's a collaborative building going on here. Is he? Oh, he's like partly in the... He's like partly like a tree and partly not. He's like a wood nymph. Or whatever, a masculine, like a satyr. Whatever. Saturday. Four of Pentacles. This is usually the, like, knowing what to hold on to and what to let go of. Here, this Minotaur guy is holding up the keystone in an arch. But is he going to be there forever like Atlas, or is he going to let go and see if the situation holds water? There's a bee on there, too. Something, or maybe a scarab. It might be a scarab. Some kind of indication. Five of Pentacles. This is usually like the feeling left out kind of energy. This time this guy looks like he's cheating at cards with this wood nymph over here, and she's like losing her energy or something. He looks a little bit like a low vibration of the devil. So you can take that how you may. But there's some kind of a loss going on here. Six of Pentacles. So we have this Minotaur guy again. He's got a yoke on his neck. he's actually chained to it. He's being forced to work, but he's harvesting something. Usually the Six of Pentacles is like, it usually does have a balance on it. Here it's like you would, oh, hang on. No, it's chained to his wrist. You would see the, the bar and then the chains with the cup on them for balance, and then coins to the poor. But here he's indentured or just a slave in general, but there's some kind of harvesting. So I'm not quite sure how to interpret this card. It's a little bit weird, a little bit unusual from how the Six of Pentacles normally is. It looks like there's like abundance happening, but it also looks like there's still some kind of, like you're still tied to some kind of karmic situation. So you can interpret that the way the Six of Pentacles normally is, or how it looks on the card, or read what the author wanted in the book. I don't usually get this card in this deck. I don't usually get this one either. Seven of Pentacles. I don't remember even seeing that. So we have this tree person with their chakras lit up meditating. And there's stuff growing, but it's not all ready to harvest yet. This is sort of, how's my garden growing? I'm being patient kind of a thing. I'm waiting for the right timing. Eight of Pentacles. That's usually doing work. I have someone out here possibly tending her garden. It's a little bit different than how the Eight of Pentacles usually works, so there could be different interpretations, because she looks like a cross between the standard Seven of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. Right? That, like when is it coming, and like when is it coming, what time is it, and abundance. So this is sort of like a freeze frame in between those two things, perhaps. All right, it's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm just checking this one to see if it's done. Like I'm doing a sample for my science. But here's the Nine of Pentacles right here. There's a little snake there. So this doesn't look like the standard view either, but we do have the feminine energy that's normally on there, and she looks like she's doing pretty well, enough to offer some kind of drink to you or her little snake buddy. We have the Ten of Pentacles. We got a little baby dragon here, like a little tiny version of the ace there. So there's a completion, and then this, like, I've mastered the forest, right? I know I learned when things are gonna be ripe and how to make stuff out of them, right? This is some kind of medicine, perhaps. I've learned how to use the herbs in the forest. And now I'm, like a wood witch. I learned how to do the things, and I've got a baby dragon for a friend. The deer aren't afraid of me. They know I'm part of the environment, that kind of stuff. It's sort of like integration into the earth energy, I guess, with that one. Okay. So the 11 here, where the page would be, is called Heaven and Earth, which is kind of like what I was just talking about, right? It's like abundance, but also resonance and grounding. And then we have the Seneschal here, which is sort of like a guardian, where the knight would be. So a keeper, a guardian, right? You're not plundering the earth for resources. You're working with it to grow and to protect and monitoring ecosystems and stuff like that. And then we have the Queen and the King. So we have like the Green Man over here, and then the Queen of Earth. So that's it. Again, these cards, they're a fairly thin cardstock with like a plastic finish. They're glossy. They're pretty crispy. They do tend to bend, but they shuffle quite easily. They're, I want to say I think they're about as wide, but they're a little bit taller than a Hay House deck, and they're like half as thick. Because a lot of people have those kinds of decks. There's a lot of them. So I want to say they're like about as tall as a standard tarot size card, and then wider. So like a standard tarot, and then these have like a little bit extra. Almost, if you have small hands, you might not be able to span them like that. As you can hear, they have a crisp shuffle. So they shuffle pretty easily. They're nice and slidey. They don't kind of jam up against each other because they're thin enough. Alright, so that's the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. Did I get some of those going backwards? Seems like it. Well, that worked like crap. So I've used this in several readings. I have playlists chock full of them. I usually say what decks I'm using at the beginning of my videos unless I forget. But you'll find it there. I've had it for a while now. So if you haven't seen my other Hit the Deck reviews, there is a whole playlist. And then I have a playlist of tarot readings that I offer, and of some art stuff, and various different types and styles of tarot readings. Like I was doing card of the day for a while, then I was doing weeklies, I was doing individual astrological signs, but I changed that when I combined them to do these elemental readings. And then I have the channelings, entity channelings, the astrological ages, relationship readings, energy reports, adventures with plastic crack, which is just for funsies. There's a couple other things there too, probably, that I don't remember. So I have all those playlists that you can check out. If you want to get a personal reading, the camera after I said I did it, just to make people sick. If you do want to get a personal reading, the list of readings that I offer is going to be in the description box down underneath the video. And I don't mind if people request a certain deck. So if you want a reading, you can say, oh, I'd really like it if you'd use the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, and I'll be like, okay. So the list of those readings is down below. The contact information is down below too. So I've got everything through my Linktree, linktr.ee/cattheminion. If you found this video interesting or useful in some way, you can hit that tip jar energy exchange, donation, PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. You can hang out with me on social media. You can email me if you want to get a reading. I've got coloring books, dark poetry, merch, prints, and actual art items for sale over here. There's a coupon code for Etsy, 3star17. You get 17% off any 3 items in my shop, including stuff that's a few bucks all the way up to the stuff that's over 150. And if you go through the link tree, that code should pop in at the top of the screen. Otherwise, you can just type it in later. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, my discussion tab, and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye.